And we're back with another video, and today I'm going to share with you some information that I've found on financing that is likely going to change and hurt the way we buy our cars in the future, and for sure hurting current models of the Dodge products along with the future garbage EV products that were being jammed down our throats. And I get beat up online pretty heavily for not being open to the future. I get the messages from the self-righteous bleeding hearts saying, we've got to save the planet, and if we don't do this, we're going to be extinct. And it's insane, the beatings that I've taken, both privately and publicly, about standing up against the whole EV lie and farce. But the more you dig, the more people do research. If they just stop listening to the TVs and just stop listening to the lying politicians and just set aside their political beliefs and which side of the aisle they're on, and just think for themselves and do a little bit of reading, then it's amazing what you'll find online. And it's amazing what empirical, hard data you can find that will show you how we're being led down a crappy path. But let's first talk about TK's video recently, where he was on a call and heard that several lenders, I'm not going to name them because I don't have any tangible proof, but believe me, I believe TK is telling the truth here, that he heard that a couple lenders, very large lenders, are now cutting the amount of money that they will lend on Stellantis products, on these Dodge cars, cutting them down to about 88% of MSRP, saying, one, they will not finance any more add-ons, any extended warranties, or anything above 88% of MSRP. And some lenders saying, while they might be willing to go MSRP, they're not willing to go above MSRP to finance any of the other stuff in. And the primary reason for this is the massive depreciation that's taking place on these cars. These last call cars are crashing in value this last year. But when I tell you that they're crashing in value, the first thought is that they're crashing in value more than a 2022, for example, or a 2021. And I'll tell you, no, the biggest difference is that Stellantis and Dodge continue to raise the MSRP price up year over year over year to a place to where the cars are going to find their actual value. And a car a year before the 2023 car is priced $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 more, not including markups and add-ons and all the other crap. So if a 2023 car is $3,000 or $4,000 more than a 2022 car, and dealers stick add-ons or markups or other crap on there, interest rates are significantly higher. All these things force the prices back to what they should be and what buyers are willing to pay for these things used. And in the end, the values are dropping from a too high of a spot. So if you think about it, a 2022, while it still depreciates a lot, it isn't going to look like it depreciated as much if you didn't pay a markup, didn't pay any add-ons, you got a phenomenal interest rate, and you got the car for MSRP, which is less than MSRP is on the last call cars, then you're probably in better shape. But nonetheless, only because the fall, it's a shorter fall to get to that price. But when they are so overpriced, like the last call cars were, you end up having this even further percentage drop in value. But the reality of it is the actual price difference between a 2022 and a 2023 isn't that big of a difference. It shouldn't be that big of a difference. It never has been that big of a difference in the past with one year over another year. But because Stellantis raised prices and Dodge raised prices so much over the last 5 years, that we're at a place to where we're jumping off a much higher cliff to get to what these cars are actually worth. But how does this affect everyone? Well, here's how. The banks are saying, yeah, we don't want to be upside down in these things. We don't want to lend too much money on these things. So now we're only going to go, let's say 88%, one of the lenders said. according to TK. 88% of what the car is listed for at MSRP. I'm thinking there's some really smart people with some calculators or abacus doing math going, this thing is not worth what they're asking. And certainly not worth what they're asking in this market. And based on the current delinquency rates that are rising and the repos that are rising, we need to be in a better shape on these cars, which means we'll do you at 100% financing if 100% is 88% of MSRP. But then you've got to come out with tax and license if you live in a state like mine where it's pretty significant. And if you're going to pay MSRP, then you're going to have to come up with the spread between that 80%, that 12% spread, and tax and license. So your down payment just went way up on these cars with many banks. So what you're going to find out is, while the bank may not come back and say that the car doesn't qualify for the financing, they are going to come back and say to you, even though you're sitting at a 720 or 750 FICO score, and say that you're approved, but you must put down $15,000 to get the car. And you're going to go, how does that work out? I've got great credit. I should be able to do this. Well, it's going to have to go through different lenders. And that means that very likely, even with your great credit, to mitigate that risk with a different lender, they're probably going to choose to stick you with a higher interest rate. So what we're seeing out there, and I'm being told by a lot of people, is even a gentleman I met this weekend who had a 850 FICO score, and they're hitting him at least a 2 to 3% over their buy rate, and their buy rate was still probably around 6%, which for somebody with an 850 FICO score doesn't make sense. Well, if you think about it like this, the banks aren't as worried about us. I think they are, but they aren't as worried about us as us buying these cars that are going to be wildly buried. And before, when it was just a little bit upside down, that's one thing. But we're talking 5-figure upside down. We're talking $10,000 plus upside down the second we drive away. And if dealers stick add-ons and other junk onto the cars, extended warranties, etc., Silajet, the GPS crap, and all that other stuff, then the bank's not going to cover it. So that's going to hurt the dealers, because that's about one of their only last little ways to make a little bit of profit, is to sell you the junk. But you're going to have to come out of pocket. And if they're going to be able to finance it in, it's going to have to be through different lenders. And those different lenders are still going to find a way to mitigate their losses. So, and that means that they're going to either stick you with a higher interest rate or want a bigger down payment. So how's that going to fare with all these cars, the used cars, and the remainder of all the new Dodge cars? Well, it's just going to cost a lot more money to get, and that makes no sense. But the banks are going to force these dealers into either coming down off the prices or only selling to people with large amounts of money down and extremely good credit, because they're not going to take as much risk. So if you've got a 620 FICO score and you're buying a car at MSRP, good luck. They're going to want so much money down, and you're going to be paying so much an interest rate that it's just not going to make sense. So you're going to want to go buy something that's much better at holding its value, and I hate to say it, but it's going to be a freaking Japanese car. It's going to be something else, not these things, sadly. But now let's talk about the issue with the electric cars that are coming. So it's even worse. I found an article by Wharton Business School, and this article is just like 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago, where they did research on 15 million buyers who bought cars in Europe, EVs, electric cars versus gas cars. And what they found is that on average, the lenders, and they believe, and they're very clear in this article, that this is applying to the US as well, that the lenders are sticking buyers of EVs with higher interest rates and shorter loan terms. And I've got the points here. I want to share with you why. The key takeaways here: a systematic gap exists in the financing of electric vehicles compared to conventional vehicles, EVs are financed with higher interest rates, lower to loan value ratios, and shorter loan durations. Next, the EV financing gap occurs mainly because lenders perceive risks related to future innovations in battery technology, which could render EVs based on current technology obsolete. And then the other takeaway here was, while incentives exist for the production and purchase of EVs, none exist to make financing easier. And the article goes on to explain in extreme detail more and more about the reason why people are being charged more money to finance EVs. But the basic reasoning is, that I think it comes down to for sure, is the fear of rapid and severe depreciation because of future innovations in battery technology. So just imagine if you are buying an EV and 3 months later, new battery technology comes out that allows you to charge the car in less than 10 minutes to 80-90% at any charger, anywhere. You are now sitting on a car that takes 45 minutes to an hour at a supercharger to get it to 80%, and the new technology will allow that car to charge in 5 to 10 minutes. What do you think is going to happen to the value of your EV? And how do you think the bank's going to feel about sitting on that EV? Well, you're sitting on old, outdated technology. Now, we understand and know that this happens with iPhones, TVs. Hell, we just moved and we had one of those old flat screen TVs, and the thing weighed a ton. So my wife said, I don't even want to mess with this thing. Just get a new TV. For $298 at Best Buy, I got a 50-inch smart TV for my office, and we got rid of and it weighed nothing. Like, I could carry it out with one hand. It weighs nothing, goes on the wall. So why in the hell would anybody buy my old used 42-inch TV, Philips TV, that weighs a ton? It's incredibly awkward to carry. It's not going to go on the wall very easily. It's a beast of a TV, and the technology is old. So why would anybody want to buy that? If I got $300 for this TV, brand new, smart technology, everything else, and I've got this thing, why in the hell would anybody want to buy this thing? Even if I put it up for half, $150, most people are going to go, you know what? For the gap in between, I'd pay the other $150 not to have to haul that boat anchor around. Well, imagine this. We've got technology tied to charging times, but also technology tied to weight, the weight of the batteries. So imagine somebody comes out with a way to have half the amount of batteries that charge in, I don't know, a fraction of the time, and now the car is going to be significantly lighter. It solves the burning through tires problem and all the other issues tied to EVs. And you're sitting on one of those EVs. The bank's going to go, we're screwed, because people are going to go, why am I paying all this money? And EVs have been significantly more expensive. And despite all the tax credits that were out there and the incentives to buy these EVs, they will not unbury you from that nightmare. So while we're sitting in these gas cars, that the technology has been relatively similar, it's just become more efficient over, a century, that our cars are going to be, I think, in the end, pretty stable in value, despite going down from new, which is what they've always done. But the EVs are going to be worse, and the banks have yet to have figured out how to mitigate their risk when it comes to the EVs. So for that reason, what we're going to see is we've got lending challenges, we've got delinquencies, we've got interest rate issues, we've got all these financing challenges out there in the world right now. And now they're going to roll out these EVs at Dodge, and those are going to cost more money and interest, shorter loan duration, loan-to-value ratio issues, which means you're going to have to put more money down, and banks aren't going to want anything to do with the old technology because, like anything, the technology changes so fast when it comes to tech, when it comes to this battery technology, when it comes to electronics and all this crazy stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to put my money on a company like Tesla, maybe, who's pretty deep in to building these things, than a company who's rolling out 5,800-pound Dodge Charger Daytonas in July that are already coming out with way too heavy, horrible range, slower than most of the other cars in its class, and they're trying to say that it's a muscle car. So I'm not thinking that's going to go well, and a brand that's already wrought with so much abuse when it comes to financing, the interest rate's going to be higher, and these issues are going to be plaguing that brand. So nothing's getting better at this point when it comes to the financing for any of these cars. But I'll tell you, I'll keep saying this till I'm blue in the face, hold on to your car. Just pay it off. Take forever. Take whatever you need to take. Just stick with it. Be happy. Maintain it. Keep the oil changed. Keep it serviced. And take care of your Hemi car. And just drive the wheels off of it. And let all this crap take place. And don't go jumping into the new thing. Don't lament over the declining value of your car, because you'll pay it down over time. Pay extra on the loan if you can. And let's sit back and wait. Because the way I look at it, I'm happy even to change my tones to say, I think gas vehicles will always be around. They're never going to go away completely. We'll just change who's in office, then all of a sudden the whole 2035 thing will soften even more. They're not going anywhere, so I'm always going to have these fun cars. But what would get me to buy an EV? Well, here's what would get me to buy an EV. Make it half as heavy as they currently are. So fix the weight issue. Which will get tremendous efficiency, and fix the charging issue. Get the charging down to, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, everywhere. Build the infrastructure to where it can help let some pressure out of the lines outside of the EV charging stations, so I'm not having to get in fistfights about who's next in the charging station, which I witness all the time outside of one of my offices. And then I'd be open to it. And you know what I'd really like to do? Go check out some videos on the Hyundai Ioniq N. Go look at it. Not a big fan of Hyundai at all, but go look at what they did with that car. They did an EV, in my opinion, that looks like it would be fun. It's got shift points. It's got engine sounds on the inside. It's got just a cool little features, and it's got a really relatively inexpensive price. And when those suckers start hitting the used market, I think people are going to be, having a blast with those things. One of those things used in the $40,000 range is going to be one hell of a fun, albeit goofy little EV, and compared to buying one of these Dodge cars. Go check it out. I think they've figured out a way to at least make the car seem a little more fun. I think Vehicle Virgins did a video on one. And not that I'm jumping up and down about them, because frankly I hate those cars, but it still looked intriguing compared to what Dodge is doing. So with that, everybody, thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.